I'm gonna get into one here that just is crazy to think about, and people are gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, you guys did that!" Like it's not normal. How's everyone going out there? Coach AJ Foy back with you. Of course, our head of school, Mr. Donald Porter's back again for another episode. This is season 1, episode 5, stories. So, we like we covered last week, and pretty much every episode here, we talked loosely about how much travel we do from game to game, and in that time, you're traveling on the road 2.5, 3 hours. I like to think of as that is like one of the best parts of this is like you do get a lot of team bonding out there on the road. There's a lot of funny stories and things that happen out on the road that bring the team together, bring a little chuckle to yourself as well. And that's what we're going to cover today. Just talk about some stories, some war stories we've had out there on the road.
Nice conversations, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when you're 3.5 hours going from place to place and then 3.5 hours back. Mm-hmm. After a win, it's one conversation. After a loss,
after a loss. After a loss, truthfully, I'm not much of a talkative
I was
going
to say, we like to stop and eat on the way back. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we just kind of bypass the side if we've had a loss or we've got some guys that are down or whatever. But a lot of McDonald's. Yep. A lot of Wingstop.
Well, this year the team's big thing was Chick-fil-A.
There you go.
I'm not a big fan. Like once in a while, like once a month or something like that, maybe I'll be in the mood for it. But they loved it. Like every game, they're like Chick-fil-A, Chick-fil-A, Chick-fil-A.
I think
I'm Chick-fil-A out.
I think for a while the McDonald's up there by the airport in Wilmington.
Yeah, that was
I think they knew who we were.
In our time, that's what it was. It was McDonald's almost every after every game.
Yeah, we get over the bridge because the kids didn't want to pay tax. You remember, we don't have to pay tax, so we come across the bridge. They learned all about that real quick.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. But we'd pull in that McDonald's sometimes right before closing time, and you'd see the kids roll their eyes working there, and they're like, "Oh, here goes a bus," or whatever. But crazy. But that's what we do. We travel, we go. Mm-hmm. Also good for the kids. They learn how to actually get off the bus when they need to get back. Exactly. Yeah, all that kind of stuff, man.
And like me and him were talking about off camera before we came on for this episode. We've been very blessed in these 6-7 years that we've been traveling like this to never have an accident. No. Never. We've been looked over for this whole time. Never had
11 years we've been blessed.
Never had a vehicle fully break down. We had one that we had to pull over this year for about 30 minutes.
Yep.
And we got it resolved, and we still got there in time and all that. But we've never had a vehicle fully break down. We've never been in an accident. Yeah. We've been in some traffic here and there.
Route 1's good for that.
Yeah, Route 1's good for that. So and obviously that can be tough after a loss. There was one game this year we got beat pretty bad, and then we got in traffic, and it was a long night. So
real quiet.
Off the top of your head, you got any big stories that come to mind when we talk about this?
Actually, I mean, there's the stories aren't always in the van. Sometimes the stories when we get off the van.
Yeah, no, not just
or
traveling,
the bus.
but just in general.
We were talking earlier. We went to a school in Jersey, and the kids were going into the school. And number one, we were escorted in because it's Jersey. Some of the towns in there. Mm-hmm. We parked the van, which was kind of crazy, but it was in a fenced-in area. And the guy walks us to the building and walks us in, and we get in an elevator. We get in the elevator. We go up, I think, 3 or 4 flights. You probably know what I'm talking about. And the door opens and there's a gym, and the kids are like, "Where did this come from?" or what? I'm like, "Just step out, And then we step out into the gym. We realize we're on the 3rd or 4th floor, and then we look up, and there's the bleachers and everything, but there's also a upper level, which one of the kids reminded could have been glass or something, and people were looking through, and like we were talking earlier, when they bounced the ball, thug, 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 because we were on the 3rd floor or whatever that floor
was. Hollow space underneath.
So. Yeah, and the kids were like amazed that we were getting off an elevator onto a basketball court.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Now,
Bon Jovi, another one.
Yeah.
Well, it was up in North Jersey.
That was
the kids literally thought, their kids go here. His kids went there.
Yeah, that's the Rainey.
Rainey,
school.
yes.
Yeah, Rainey. John Bon Jovi. He's from New Jersey.
Yeah.
If you're not aware, the John Bon Jovi, his kids went to Rainey. He's a big donor. Yeah. And board member, I believe, if I'm correct. He might not be there now.
It was a while back.
The kids are gone, but I know he was on the board when his kids went there.
Yeah, and of course our kids are
beautiful.
Oh my
campus.
gosh! Oh my gosh!
I actually played them in soccer when I was in high school, and brand new official artificial
Turf
turf with
and-
the little rubber pellets.
And that was back then.
All that, and that was
yeah,
back then.
Yeah,
So
I don't mean to make you old.
gorgeous,
but,
but yeah.
but that I mean, the kids were there looking like, is he going to be in the stands?
Of course, 40,000 a year to go there.
Oh yeah,
we'll
that,
get you
that helps a
We'll
little
get
bit.
you that. Yeah.
That definitely pays the electric bill.
Yeah.
But those type of things, like you said, we were so blessed, and coming from we were talking from humble beginnings that we used to practice literally out back of the old Nazarene school. There was a little court.
Yep.
One basket, and we went out there and played, and then we stepped up to the Boys and Girls Club. We
Yeah.
had 2 baskets, and we were indoors. All of those things come back to play because you think of all that. The kids were willing to do all of that to just play basketball.
Well, I remember my first year here. So I got here in the summer, like May, and we were in a summer league in New Jersey my first year here. And, the Boys and Girls Club, we were renting the Boys and Girls Club and, getting practices and home games there and whatnot. But during the summer, they had their summer camp there.
Right.
So there was there's only certain hours that were available. Usually at night is the only times they were available. So when we had to practice, a lot of people weren't available for late night practices.
Right.
So we were practicing out there, at like 4 o'clock in the summer, during the summer, practicing out at a gym, out at an outdoor court at one of the public schools. I probably shouldn't say.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Yeah,
I probably shouldn't say.
I know exactly.
I probably shouldn't say what public school it was.
We used to drive everybody there. Yeah.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't say what public school
Yeah,
was,
yeah,
but we
absolutely.
were practicing out on their outdoor court that they use for recess. That's where we were practicing at.
Yep.
But again, it says a lot about those kids that were willing to do that in 90-degree weather.
Yeah.
To go out there and practice for an hour and a half, 2 hours.
yeah.
For the summer league.
And there was a store down there. I can't say too much because, like I said,
Yeah.
we don't want to get in trouble.
Yep.
But we'd there'd be a store down there, run down there and get bottles of water
Yep.
or whatever, and then bring it back.
Yep.
But like we were talking earlier in the last episode, what you got to go through, what you got to do to actually get that next level offer or get that next level opportunity, and. We going back and forth to Hagerstown. That's a ride. We go back and forth over there, and then the bridge gets us.
Yep.
Some nights, especially if we have to play a Friday night game when we're trying to come
Yeah.
back home.
Yeah, well, I think looking there's a quote out there, and I think that thinking about those kids that practice on that court in 90-degree weather and all these traveling and stuff like that. I think the simple thing is that if it's important to you, you'll find a way, and if it's not, you'll find an excuse. That's what it is.
I mean, we take the vehicle and pick them up,
Yep.
and they were always there. I mean, they wanted to play the game,
Yeah.
and it didn't matter where they played. They just wanted to go play. An opportunity, we picked them up, we drove them, and the opportunity was there. And praise God, they took the opportunity, and I hope changed their lives. And I'm that's the only thing I can say is I hope that we can change a lot of lives.
Yeah,
But
and I get those occasional reach out texts and Facebook messages and stuff like that from them saying, "Oh man, I miss these days." Especially like when you go through the memories, like on Facebook, how Facebook says on this day, such and such years ago, this happened.
Right.
A lot of them will share that, and like you said, that just tells you, like you said, at the end of the day, like we talked about, episode 1, episode 2, the ends justify the means.
Right.
When you think about the impact they've had.
And then I think about, like you were saying, thank God for the Wawas and the rural farms, because how many times we have to pull it off.
Yeah.
Hey, I gotta go. Let's go. You know what I mean? And we'd be like, we don't time. Hurry up, go.
There was
go,
one this
go.
year. There was
Yeah.
one this year. There was this year. We're kind of running a little late. Actually, we're running about like 15, 20 minutes behind from where I wanted to be. I mean, I like I said, I always like to leave an hour early anyway, just to give that space. But
Absolutely,
we were still about 15, 20 minutes behind. And the one kid was like, "Coach, I gotta go." He's like, there is no way.
Yeah.
We had another hour to go. He's like, there's no way I can wait for another hour. He's
Yeah.
like, something bad might happen on this van. I was like, all right. I was like, we'll pull over. Let's do it.
Yeah, and thank God, like I said, now and there's more of them today than there was 11 years ago.
Yep.
But we knew where every spot was back then. We knew every turn to take off to Route 113, 495, whatever Turnpike.
Yeah.
The Turnpike's another one. Jeez, we get on there sometimes, and on the way home we're like, it wasn't like this coming. Why are we backed up like this? But
Yep.
it gets crazy. We were also we were talking. I talked to my son earlier. We always make a count of our kids and everything, and I'm always kind of like you always say. I'm preparing for whatever's coming.
Yep.
And I count the kids. I'm doing everything. One of the schools in Jersey. Not going to say. My wife's going to hear it for the first time because she doesn't know. But I get a call on the bridge and going, "Hey, Coach, did you forget anyone? And I'm looking in the mirror going, no, everybody's in here. And I'm like, no, you forgot one, coach. And I'm like, oh, man, where's my son at? You know, and I turn around and have to go back off the bridge. We get over the bridge, turn back and go back over the bridge, and then go into the school, which was close. It was right there.
Yeah.
And I don't even think he knew I don't think he knew I left him. He was still in the gym shooting and doing his thing. But, you know, you forget all that stuff because, number one, you wouldn't forget that. And, you know, I told him, I don't know how much don't tell Mom.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm telling Mom now, but it's over. It's, what's that called when you're past the point of getting in trouble? So, I mean, hopefully I've passed my time. My legality is run out.
Legality, yeah. I'm thinking the term is it's escaping me, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, so hopefully she'll forgive me because, you know, now he's 20, so we'll go from there.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's kind of where we start this thing, and we'll see where we're getting a little hand signal. I think we got to start.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and
we
take
don't
a pause
get the
right
camera
there,
hot.
and we'll give you one of the one of our many sponsors and one of our partners, and we'll come right back. Thank you. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Season 1, Episode 5, Stories. So before the break, we were just talking about some war stories out there of our 2.5 hour trips, and then, of course, when we get there as well. And once again, Coach AJ with our head of school, Mr. Donald Porter. And, you know, like I said, the basketball, getting these kids seen and all that stuff is, you know, why we do this. But there's things that you can't put a price on, you know, moments and memories. And, you know, when you're out there, you're traveling 2.5, 3 hours away, you know, there's a lot of time for moments and memories to happen. And, you know, I'm going to get into one here that just is crazy to think about. And people are going to be like, oh my gosh, you guys did that. Like it's not normal. But, you know, we were in that Merck's tournament, you know, the first time we won it back in 17-18. And
Glen Burnie or over that way?
Yeah, Glen Burnie over there. Yep, at Granite Baptist. Yep. Granite Baptist. They used to host it, and you know, it for us it was about an hour and a half, which a lot of people would still say that's around here they'd be like, oh my God, you're still tripping. But for us, that was actually the shorter trip. That was a quick trip. Felt like nothing.
Yeah.
So it's a 3-day tournament. So first day we get over there, we win the first day or whatever, and he's like, you know, you got to be here at 2 on day 2, and they had it spaced about an hour and a half between games, which honestly is tight. An hour and a half between games. You get one that goes into overtime.
Yeah.
You get one where a team's 5 minutes late or something like that. It changes the whole day. I think 2 hours is the better way to do things like that. But anyway, it was an hour and a half. You know, they had girls and boys, so it was a lot to fit into one day.
Right.
So I get why they did that. So we were sitting there in the morning. I had already told them. I said, hey, look, we're leaving. You know, we play at 2. We're gonna leave at 10:30. I think is what I told them. So I wake up in the morning, and it is winding. It is blowing wind. And I remember I was watching the news about it, and it came across that the Bay Bridge that we have to cross to get there, the Bay Bridge was closed for everybody. That's how bad it was. The Bay Bridge was closed.
I remember that.
Completely.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, crap. So I put in my GPS. I put the address in my GPS, and I changed the way where we went around the Bay Bridge to see how far. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. I told them we weren't leaving until 10:30. So it says in my GPS that if we left right now, we'd get there at tip-off. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I call you. I said, change of plans. I was like, luckily that was when we were driving.
Right.
Like that was actually like if we had a transport company at that time, we'd be in big trouble.
No.
But that was when we had our own, 15-passenger van. And I just called everybody. I was like, we got to go now. I was like, get your jerseys. I'm coming right now to pick you up. We got to go. I was like, because we can't go the short route. And
we ended up going up and around.
We went.
Right?
We had to go all the way up the state of Delaware, back down around to because obviously we could have just cut right across. That's what we were doing. We were just cutting right across. It was almost a straight line. Their school was almost a straight line. We just had to go straight across. And it was a far distance, obviously, but it was just a straight line. But no, we had to go all the way up Delaware, then back down, halfway back down Maryland to get there. It took us about 5 hours. And there was this one bridge we crossed. I had never seen that part of Maryland. To be honest with you, I don't even know where we were. So half the time. Thank God we had the GPS and it never crapped out on us at any point because we would have been really bad then. But there was this one bridge. It was a dam, And like I said, the wind was crazy. It was a bad. I don't know if it was like a tropical storm was coming in that week or weekend or what was going on.
Windy. Yeah, it was windy.
And the water was actually smashing the side of the dam and like coming up on the road a little bit. So we started going across it, and like most of them were asleep the whole ride. But Tyreek looked out the window. He's like, "Coach, are we going across this bridge right now?" I was like, "We got to go across the bridge, buddy." And he's closing his eyes.
I think he's the one that didn't like the Bay Bridge.
No, he didn't like the Bay Bridge either.
The Bay Bridge, yeah.
And he was scared to death. And like it was scary because it was a 1-lane road. Right. It was a 1-lane bridge. Like it was one of those bridges where, you have one traffic with a stop sign. It says stop to the oncoming traffic because the bridge was real narrow.
Right.
And it was wild.
Yeah.
And we did get there about 5 minutes before game time. Right. We just had to.
And that's another thing that we don't talk enough about when we are in tournaments. We do have to go back and come back and go back and come back. So, those things are interesting too because you've got to get up and go.
Yeah.
And once again, we don't always get a chance to spend the night. Now, if it's an early morning, we'll do something like that.
Yep.
One night we had to stay at a bed and breakfast, and the kids had never done that before. And that was kind of crazy for them because they're like, where do we go get something to eat? Or the whole thing was new. The whole concept was new.
Yep.
The people were great that did it, but our kids were for the first hour or two just kind of feeling out where they can go sit, where they can watch, TV or whatever. And once again, that was a moment that they never had before. And we got to experience that, and they got to experience that. I got to experience that. So we all just kind of played that night, got through it, got up the next morning, and went right over to it was Doane, I believe, right over to Doane and played the early morning game. But if we have time to come back and forth, we do most of the time go back and forth.
Yep.
So I mean, it can be hectic and
a little bit, I'm not a big excuse kind of guy, but a little bit of a built-in excuse sometimes when we talk about these 3 or 4 day tournaments that we're in, and we're the ones that's traveling 2.5, 3 hours back and forth while the other teams are 30 minutes away from the building.
Right.
So it's a little bit of, an excuse without, justifying it, but still, it's a little bit of a built-in there.
No, we said earlier,
obstacle.
in one of the earlier programs, that we just weren't that first quarter team.
Yep.
And now we got to be careful because we don't just play quarters, we play halves.
Yep.
So we got to, kind of be ready to go even when we get there because that 20 minutes or whatever goes, there's no break.
Yep.
There's no 8 minute, let's reboot, So, and with the halves, you have the 30-second clock, so your legs better.
Yep.
You better get out and be going or
Yep.
you're going to get behind and then here we go.
Yeah, then you're in trouble. Then you're playing catch up the whole time.
Yep.
So I'll say the other story that I was thinking about too was my first year here up there at Tri-State Christian.
Yeah.
And we're staying in that motel. We were staying in that motel up there.
Yeah.
And I think Dre and Tyreek had stayed with you. We're staying in the room with you. And you told me that you came up and you were like, before they went to bed, they had a Gatorade. And they both took the Gatorade. They both had their own Gatorade. And they took those Gatorades. And this was before we had Out-Train Fitness and Performance to tell our kids the nutritional values and how important that is. But they loved candy. Dre and Tyreek loved candy. And so they took their Skittles and put it inside the Gatorade bottle and let it marinate overnight. And when they woke up in the morning, that was their first thing they did was they drank out of the Gatorade.
Yeah. Dre was a Skittles guy.
You told me that Dre was like, and it was like that hit. But
but once again, like you say, we did what we had to do. We had a store across the street, and we went across there. And
there's a McDonald's right across.
Yep, they got what they needed, and they come back to the candy.
Yeah. Right. Then of course we had at that point we had that kid from New York that had came here, was living with us, and he was a little bit higher maintenance. Let's say that. Yeah. And he had to go to the Waffle House for breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
He went to the Waffle House because we had McDonald's for dinner that night, too. We had McDonald's the night of the tournament, and we had it the morning of the tournament.
That's what we did.
And, not him. I think he had Waffle House for dinner, and I think he had the Waffle House for breakfast the next day, too.
Yeah, and like you say, the reason we did it, the McDonald's thing is because sometimes the kids didn't, they didn't have everything they needed, so we kind of helped out the best we could. And and it was... Not to be out of the way, but it was it was cheap, and we could use it. We could get food to feed everybody, and it was food they all.
That was back when the dollar menu was
Oh yeah,
actually
absolutely,
$1.
absolutely. I mean, and we could definitely go in there and get what we needed, and it was all done in one spot.
Yep.
We were there.
Yeah, I'm sure. We frustrated some McDonald's employees.
Oh, there's no doubt.
But
there's no doubt.
But no, it was all done in one spot, like you said, and we could feed the whole team if we needed beyond $25.
Oh yeah, back then it was and some of our guys that went with us, some of the board members, they would let's
Chip
go,
in.
let's go, let's get this and get that. But that's once again that's why we do what we do, man.
Yep.
Those moments are impossible to forget. Like we're sitting here, and this was for me 11 years ago, and I could even go back further than that at some of the other schools. But
yeah, I mean, if you got anything, go. Let's what this is
no,
about.
No,
Go
but
throw it in there.
it's just it's just crazy how people look at us and not understand what we have to do to go through what we do.
Yeah.
And we do it because we love to do it. I mean, there's not a day goes by that we don't sit here and talk about something. We talk every day.
Yep.
And we talk about stuff that is exciting.
Yeah.
We like I said, we go up and down, but 9 times out of 10, we end up. Let's go. Let's try to figure this out. And hopefully down the road here, we're going to be able to announce some things and do some things, all because we love to do what we do. We can do what we do, and God has allowed us to go from those single courts out back with one basket to now, like we were talking about our gym and that kind of thing going on. When I walk in there at night, make sure the heat's down or make sure the lights are off, because that's what I do.
Yeah.
And just sit there and say, thank you, God.
Yeah.
This is crazy. This crazy that we went from this little concrete court out back, the little 4-room schoolhouse that we started in, or 2-room, and now we're looking in a gym like this. And you and I couldn't have done that.
Yeah.
God had to be moving in our lives. And what amazes me is everything he was doing behind us while we were playing on that court, or we were playing in the Boys and Girls Club. All of these things that we look at, and it doesn't matter what, I'm going to say what I think that are miracles in my life.
Yep.
Because they are truly miracles, because this guy couldn't have done it. God was making all those movements, people reaching out to us, talking to us, people pushing us when we didn't want to be pushed. But still being pushed to the point where we're going to be pushed off a cliff. No, we're going up the mountain. That's what you're pushing us. Yeah. And and to me, all of this stuff goes back. Like you say, Dre, Tyreek, all of these guys still reach back. John.
Yep.
John will never be forgotten.
Yeah,
John.
Nope. He's somebody, he wanted to be on our coaching staff this year too, but he's out there, he's working, he's grinding, he's doing his own thing, started his own business. So he wasn't able to, with the, as far as his schedule goes, but we're hoping maybe he can catch on next year. Of course, Sean.
Right,
Sean
absolutely.
Correa is our assistant coach. He played for us. And now he's back. He's coaching here. He's pre-K teacher in here.
Yeah,
and
picked him up in Milford and took him down and all of that. I mean,
and that's a connection we made with Wayne.
Absolutely. And the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah, the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah. And still today, like you say, he was here with me last night, hanging out. But those things, that first win when we beat that tournament we played over there, the Mercs.
Yep.
I will never ever forget that.
Yeah.
And I don't think they will either, because that was just a moment.
It was just
just boom in their mind,
yeah.
and that would never leave. And when they talk to you, they still.
Yeah, it was a great experience, and I think to be honest with you, I think every state championship should be done that way.
Yeah.
I think every conference championship should be done that way. I mean, we're talking about Eastern a Christian school tournament, and it was a good one. They only invited the better teams on the Eastern Shore. But you're talking about they brought up the ladders. They gave you the scissors. You climb up the ladders, cut down the net.
Still got the picture. Still got the net.
Yeah, I got a piece of the net in my classroom.
Kids,
And that's just that's the experience. Yeah, obviously they're not going to forget the game. It came down to a buzzer beater, and John hit the buzzer beater, stepped up, hit that floater, and it came up to that. But at the same time, the biggest thing I don't think they'll forget is climbing up the ladder, cutting down the net, coming back down, handing the net to the next person. They go up and cut the net and throw it.
And of course, I'm saying, watch the scissors. Watch You know me. I mean, that's all I remember doing. It's like, don't be careful. Yep. But those moments will never go away, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
And we love it. I mean, sure, we've gone when we used to go over there and we get beat first, second round, but we go play 3 games.
Yep.
Let's go play. And we just take it to the next level. Yep. We don't complain about it. Let's fix it.
Yep.
Let's how to get better. Let's try to figure out how to get better. Let's get in the gym longer. Let's do all these things we need to do. And then that moment hits.
Yep.
That moment hit because we did lose a year or two before, you know,
Yep.
and we just wanted to keep it. Same boys, same young men.
Mm-hmm.
And those times are something that I'll never forget.
Yep.
And if I won't, I'm sure they won't because everyone's on the court. I'm just sitting there watching them.
Yep, absolutely. But we're going to take another pause here. We're getting the minute warning here on that, and you know, this just goes to show we were worried about not having enough time for this episode. You know, not enough to say because we're free shooting at this one. This one's all from our hearts and our memories and our moments and memories that we won't forget. But now we'll go ahead and take a break, and we'll come back for our last segment. Welcome back to the final segment, season 1, episode 5, stories. Just talking about some war stories of, you know, on the road, things that stick out to us in our memories. Doesn't even have to be on the road. Could be when we got there. Could be here before we leave. Whatever the case may be. It's just things that moments and memories that stick into my head. And you know, right before the break, we were talking about people don't get it. Like we were talking about that 5-hour trip we had. That should have only taken an hour and a half because the Bay Bridge was closed and we had to go all the way around. And you know, people don't get it. People don't get it. Like, I get looked at all the time. Like, I had a player this year look at me when I was sweeping the floor. Now, you guys, you don't have a janitor? You don't have somebody to do that? I was like, you're looking at him, baby. I was like, you're looking at me. I was like, I clean the bleachers after the games. I put the trash out. I clean the trash out of the gym. I was like, the gym's my baby. I'm like, you know, anything that has to do with the gym falls on my plate. And you know, people. Some of the times I've told people some of the stuff I've done or went through for the school, and they just look at me like bizarre, and I'm like, I look at them like they look at me like, what am I missing? Like, why are you doing that? And then at the same time, I look at them, what are you missing?
Yeah.
I know why I'm doing it. I love this. You know, this is what you know I was put here to do. Is how I feel, and it's just. Like you said, it's just incredible to look at where we've come from to now. Just going back on the stories from 2016 to 17 and thinking where we're at now.
Yeah, and like I said, 2011 to today with me.
And that's a whole different thing.
And it's a whole different thing, exactly. Mm-hmm. And we, like you say, I'm in there today when I get done with this. Mm-hmm. I'm hitting the mop and, you know, going to get into the lower school, which we call it elementary, but it's lower school. Yep. And, you know, people come in, meet with us today or whatever, or meet with me today for next year or a new student. And they're like, you know, I'm like, yeah, when I get done, you gave me a break. What do you mean? Yeah. I mean, to bother your day.
Yeah, why?
Yeah. You know, you've given me a break. I can put the mop back in the bucket and I can have a conversation with you, which gives me a half-hour break. Yep. So, you know, once again, we do what we have to do so we can keep it the way we need to keep it for the kids to come in and get those opportunities and change their lives. Yeah. Just change their life. And once again, the word they don't get it. Change their life. Yep. It's not a today. It's just a lifetime. Mm-hmm. You know, we start with a moment and then boom, let's go.
Yep. Absolutely.
And that's when we get excited.
Yep.
Because we start with a moment and then we can just like, it's just exciting. Oh yeah. It's just great. I mean, my wife says I go. She goes to work and I go to play. Yep. So and it's awesome. You know, I love doing what I do, and you love doing what you do, or we wouldn't have the mops in our hands, the brooms in our hands.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, I don't have a mop or a broom in my hand for anything else. I'll tell you that. That's, you know, there's nothing else I would have a mop or a broom for other than, you know, my gym floor or something like that.
And I look at everything we do. I would not want to do anything different. Mm-hmm. I would not want to start it from anything from a humble beginning that we started. Because number one, he gives you what you can go as you go and learn to take care of it all. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to learn to take care of it all. Plus, we keep an eye on all of our kids and just want them to become amazing. Amazing.
Yep. Well, I think, you know, most people who know me spend a lot of time around me. They know I'm a big reader. I'm a big podcast guy. And I think, you know, John Gordon, that inspirational guy that everybody loves. And I love him too. He's great too and whatnot. But the one that I was reading the other day was talking about fear and faith. And he said, fear and faith, you know, they both start with F, and then they both are something that's going to happen in the future. Either one, you can choose. You can choose to have faith in something great happening in the future, or you can choose to fear something in the future. But both of them are something that hasn't happened yet. It's your decision which one you're going to follow.
Yeah, and once again, I think the reason, I mean, you look at me and say I'm ready for the fall, but I do. We were there when we were nothing. So yeah, I do. I'm ready for it. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we do have a situation, then let's deal with it. You
Yep.
know, but I want to be prepared for that. Just no different than when we go on the van or we go on the bus. We want to be prepared for the trip. We want to be able to have the directions. We want to be able to do these things. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that just stops us from saying, well, we didn't have an accident. No, thank God. We've never had those issues.
Yep.
We've been blessed to have people help us. We've had blessed to have God look over us.
Yep.
And that's just where we are.
Yep. And you know, the other thing that happens too is like you can go through these valleys.
Mm-hmm.
You can go through these valleys in life, and like you're wondering why, and then right before it's all you can take, you know, God throws something in there. It might be small, might be big, but right before it's everything you can take. Right when you're at your breaking point, there's always something thrown in that just picks you up for a little bit.
Yep.
Like it happened to me yesterday. You know, I was talking to a Division II coach about things, about what we did. He's like, "What's going on? What's this program?" He's like, "I've never heard of it." And I told him what we do, and I was telling him about, you know, one of our guys that, you know, was put under the basket, and we gave him a chance to play the wing, and, you know, all those things, and we're the only school in Delaware that offers a 5th-year option. You know what we do. You know, we had 3 kids on our team that tore their ACLs their
That's
senior years.
absolutely correct.
And everybody else was going to just be like, well,
Yep. Now
yeah,
you're
tough break.
you're
tough
going to
break,
start
bud.
preaching now. So be careful.
You're gonna have to go and go JUCO and try to walk on or something. Tough break.
Tough.
But here we are with that 5th-year option, and now they're all, you know, God willing, is going to be playing in college, you know, regardless. You know, they're still going to be at it. It's not done for them.
No.
And he's sitting there like, oh my gosh. He's like, that's just so great. You know, I want to keep this connection alive. You know, connect me with other coaches. Do you know any other coaches that do things the way you do things the right way, the way you care about your kids and all that stuff? And like I said, you know, you go through those valleys, and then, like I said, when you least expect it, God gives you something just to just keep going a little bit longer.
Yeah, no, absolutely correct. And like you said, that we go through those valleys. We don't stay in them.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go through them. Let's learn from 'em. I say it all the time, and you hear me say it. Well, you know, we're going to make mistakes. Let's learn today and wake up tomorrow and get it right.
Yep.
And if we don't, we just try to get better and better. No different than with your team, no different than with my team or anybody else.
Yep.
That's what we try to do. And we love our kids. We know that we're going to have to work hard. We know we're going to cry every now and then. But at the end of the day, they have a right, if they choose to be amazing.
Yeah.
Period.
Yep.
Period.
I mean, if they accept everything
challenge.
that we have here, only good things can happen. If you're all in, on everything we offer, all in on everything we do here, only good things can happen from there. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. This was season 1, episode 5, stories. And I think, you know, this could have been an hour and a half, 2-hour episode easily, but we're not going to do that.
And we were worried.
Yeah.
God,
and
God
we were
is
worried
good.
about
God is good.
We were worried about keeping it going long enough, but like I said, we didn't have any notes for this one. No notes on this one. Just, you know, things from our memories and our hearts that we talked about. But talk about next week. Next week we're gonna address the elephant in the room. We haven't done this yet. We're gonna address the elephant in the room. So next week's gonna be episode 6. We're gonna talk about 5th year, and that's what that episode's gonna be called. It's gonna be called 5th year. And, you know, like I said, I played New Jersey for my last 3 years of high school basketball, and I went to college in PA. So up there in Philadelphia, up there in New Jersey, the 5th year thing is a completely normal thing. Nobody looks twice at you for doing a 5th year. But because we're the only ones, you know, there's that great saying where the first person through the wall always gets a little bloody. The first person to run through that wall always gets a little bloody.
A little.
You know, we you know, a lot of times when things are misunderstood, you know, there is a lot of negativity about it, and even cast out, and that's kind of where we are, and that's kind of what inspired us to do this podcast. So I probably should have done this episode sooner, the 5th year, but we just want to explain everything.
Yeah, and I'll wait because you know me.
You're gonna wait for next week.
Because I can.
Yeah. So anyway, like I said, next week, if it's something that you're thinking about doing for you, or you're thinking about doing something for your kid, next week's an episode you're not going to want to miss. Like I said, so next week, season 1, episode 6, the 5th year, we're going to explain it all, because I've even got questions of if they still get a diploma or not. You know, you had to tune in. Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, you still get a diploma. But anyway, till next week, we'll talk to you. Appreciate you.